They say hunting and fishing can be dated back more than 2 million years. Throughout the years, the historic angler and hunter has steadily evolved into the avid hunter and angler that we know and love today. Welcome to the Outdoor Defiance podcast. As you listen, you will hear comical stories, companies talking about their products, researchers talking about their research, and overall ways to help you become a better outdoorsman. Welcome to today's episode.
What up, guys? Hey, I just got back from getting the bow set up, got some new things put on it. I can't wait to show you guys my bow setup for this year. I did a huge upgrade and very excited to show you guys. But hey, for this week's episode, we have Nick with Unbound Archery. Nick has taken the art of building custom bowstrings and absolutely dialed it in, so you guys need to check him out. Also, you guys need to check out the Shot 3D Experience events coming up. We're actually going to meet Nick in Kansas this coming up weekend, which will be about a week or two after this episode is released. But you guys need to check it out. Shot does a really good job of putting real life situations up out in the field. Makes you think about your shots and also test you. So definitely look them up. Their link will be in the description below, and also Nick's will with Unbound Archery. So here's this week's episode. Hope you guys enjoy it. Nick, thank you for coming on today, and we look forward to hear about your company and diving into bow hunting a little bit and bows and see where this conversation takes us. But thank you for coming on and joining us today.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
So we'll kind of dive into the bowstrings here in a little bit, but kind of give us a breakdown of how you got started in the outdoors.
So it's kind of interesting story. I was born in California, and when I was little, my parents moved us out to the Midwest. So no one, that I know of in my family ever did much hunting, but we were big into fishing out there. So the funny story is I'd be, like you guys probably remember when the Outdoor Channel and Sportsman Channel had a lot of like hunting, but the way it was broke up, it'd be like hunting for a little bit, then fishing for a little bit, then hunting. And I would always skip back and forth and skip the hunting ones and get right to the bass fishing. And I was like, man, these dang hunting shows, like I just want to watch fishing, And then there'd be some where it'd be like hunting on all of them. So I'd watch a little bit of it, just kind of waiting for it to pass. And, watching like, the Waddells, Bone Collectors, and the Drurys and stuff like that. And I'm like, I started getting hooked on it. And I was like, got to the point where I was watching more of it and then waiting for the fishing stuff to hurry up and get over so I can watch more of the hunting stuff. So it's kind of like, in a way, like self-taught, like I didn't have anyone to. I had a buddy, Steve, that kind of got into it at the same time. We met at work together. So we kind of went through it together and just worked off each other and, grew real passionate about it. And it was funny because back in those days, like starting out, I don't think any two arrows matched the same spine, same length. None of the broadheads were the same. I didn't own a pair of binos or a rangefinder, but we practiced so much that we were, so accurate. So that's kind of like how I got started in the hunting stuff.
So did you jump in and start the archery side, or what did you start with?
Yeah. Yep. I jumped right into archery right out the gate.
Awesome. So what was your first bow?
The first bow I had was like a 2005 Hoyt Ultra Sport.
Yeah.
You remember that bow?
Yeah, I remember. I never shot one, but yeah, I definitely remember they came out looking at them. So my first bow was a 96 Fred Bear before they even changed straight to Bear. And awesome. It was my dad's hand-me-down, and I think my draw length was way past my head, but I didn't know any different. So yeah, it's crazy to how things have evolved since. Which I started hunting. I want to say bow hunting, started shooting in 2004-ish. Maybe 2006, somewhere in there. I started shooting a bow, but my dad said I couldn't go shoot a deer with the bow unless I, was somewhat accurate at 20 yards. And it took a while to learn, but.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was like 2009-ish when I first got into hunting. I remember the first time I actually harvested an animal was a turkey. And my buddy Steve and I were driving down a dirt road, and there was turkeys on private land, and it was right across the road was public. So we hurried up and we drove past them, and we had these They look so dumb. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but they were like the inflatable turkey decoys you can get at
Yeah.
Walmart. It was like a 5-pack. So we drove up like a mile, jumped out, ran over behind a hill, like hurried up and blew them up. They looked so dumb, and we went and stuck them out and called. And sure enough, they came over, and we just kind of guessed, and we were like on a little hillside, and we're like, all right, they should be like 15 yards right there, and we both drew back at the same time. There's a couple turkeys, and are like, all right, 1, 2, 3, and that never works out. But I hit a turkey, and I think I kind of shot a little premature and messed him up, but it was cool. The turkey ran off and probably 75 yards, and so that was my first time I shot something with a bow.
So what was your first deer experience?
Deer hunting was kind of a rough. You can learn pretty much everything. Watching the Outdoor Channel, the Sportsman Channel, you can learn a lot. But what you don't really learn is what's the word I'm looking, like the woodsmanship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that stuff is like trial and error.
Yeah.
We thought watching TV, you see them going in, you see them putting out, in Kansas we can bait, you see them putting out bait, you see them hanging stands, you see them trimming sticks, cutting lanes. So we thought that the more effort you put into that, like, okay, we were out there every day, middle of the day, morning, evening, like every day we're out there. We're like, all right, because we're spending so much time out here, like surely it's going to work for us. And we wouldn't see much deer because of how much time we were spending out there. So the first 2 or 3 years I had experiences that I blew. I'm glad I did, because it was learning experience. And since then I've been able to harvest a pretty decent buck every year since. So pretty fortunate.
So when did you move from California to Kansas?
Man, I was probably 10 at the time.
Mm-hmm. Was that a kind of a culture shock from going from what?
Oh,
Well,
dude,
where did you live in California? I guess.
we lived in Stockton.
Okay.
So, it was kind of sketchy, to be honest. Huge classrooms, lots of crime and stuff like that. And oh man, it was so bad. And, people had like bars on their windows. Like you didn't leave anything out, it got stolen. Like that's how much crime and stuff there was. But yeah, moved out here. And the funny thing is, I remember my mom like telling her like, I don't want to move, like my friends, and I'm going to be so mad. She's like, one day you're going to thank me. And we moved out. We moved out, and like I say, thank you. Thank God you got us out of there. Like I couldn't imagine what my life would be like had I stayed in a state like that. It would have been awful.
Yeah. My family used to live in California, and they just recently, in the last 5 years, all moved to Tennessee. So it's
yeah,
they're
that's a big shock.
like, wait, we can go buy a gun and not get questioned, or like we can go do this. And
Yeah, I remember the first few years going to a new school. Like I did not fit in. Like I was this young, like city kid, like amongst all the farm kids. It was a big adjustment. But yeah, I'm real thankful for it.
Yeah.
How old were you when you shot your first deer?
Boy, 2011, I want to say.
Wow.
So it's like 20, like early 20, like 23, something like that.
Yeah.
Wow. So when you moved to Kansas, was it all like, did you just jump right into hunting there, or?
So it like I said, we moved when I was like 10-ish, and it wasn't until 2009. So it wasn't until I was like 21-ish until I got into bow hunting.
So you're already in Kansas. So look, Kansas
it's a good state to start out.
Yeah, great state.
Pretty fortunate there.
Yeah, looking at the wall behind you, are all those years over your head?
Yeah. So I don't know if you can kind of see some of these. That was one of my first big deer. I don't know if I can turn around and kind of show you some of those. That one on the wall. So the one I shot this year, I don't know if you guys saw it online, but the BTR score on it was 193-ish. And last year's was 172. But my top 5 average is like 170-ish.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, Kansas is a great spot. That's why we started putting in the last 3-4 years, Gunner.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we we grew up here hunting, and we kind of have two different stories. Gunner grew up kind of doing it all. I just kind of grew up muzzleloader hunt and your rifle hunt. You shoot the weekend before, and that's it. And it's because we didn't have a lot of spots or a lot of time at the time. And then when I started driving, it was like the world was mine when it came to hunting. Like
That's awesome.
I quit
And you
sport.
guys are a 2-buck state, right?
Yeah, we're a 2-buck state.
What's like, I mean, you've hunted Oklahoma, you've hunted Kansas. Like, what's the difference in like the public land access and stuff like that out in Oklahoma? Is it pretty nice?
Who I would say Oklahoma has more public land than people realize. I think what happens sometimes is the bigger tracks get hit pretty hard a lot. There's definitely good public land. You do have to work for it quite a bit here. It's very doable. Taylor had some success getting on deer on some public pieces. We have controlled hunts, so all of our controlled hunts are public WMA hunts. So I've hunted a couple of those, and usually what that consists of is like a bow only area. They'll let you shoot a muzzleloader or something like that. So, and I missed 170-inch deer on a public piece with my rifle.
Wow.
You know, we have good public pieces, but you definitely have to work for it. We don't have the walk-in program that you guys have.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, and maybe you can clear this up, but like you said, in
Like
Kansas, we have a walk-in, and you know, anyone can hunt anytime. It's just how crowded it is. If you like it or not, you can go to another spot. But I heard someone from Kansas went to Oklahoma, and they said there's like an area, and you have to get a hold of that area manager and like ask for permission and like days to go in. Is that accurate? Or maybe back. So how does that work then?
I mean, if it's public ground, you just pull up and go.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So there's OLAP land.
Yeah.
That might be what he's talking about. The
Yeah,
WMA
maybe.
stuff and that you just look online for the regulations. There's special regulations for some of them. So like there'll be somewhere it's like closed to deer gun and muzzleloader, so they're bow only.
Yeah, that
but
could have been what he was talking about.
The OLAP stuff, the Oklahoma Land Access Program, it's like walk-in, private landowner gives access, but sometimes they're only letting people fish, or sometimes they're only letting people do certain things. They should have signs posted, but you may have to call for that if you don't really know. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's about the closest thing there is you know, you might have to call them, or you don't even call the farmer, you're calling the state. I've been asking, but everything's pretty much online now of what you can do there, and some of it is duck hunting only, or you only shoot lead shots. So they have kind of specific, but no, here if you pull up and it's public, you can get out and hunt. You know, my experience there, you ask what's the difference. My experience there, Oklahoma has quite a bit bigger chunks in areas versus like the OLAP, versus the Kansas walk-in. But our chunks will be like 10,000 acres or 8,000 chunks.
Oh, wow.
But most of them are around waterways, so like lakes, rivers. Some aren't, but quite a few are. But man, it can be really good, but it can also be really bad at the same time. Like I've ran into some big deer. I mean, the two biggest deer I've ever seen were on public that I could have shot. Was watching them deer in velvet, had videos of them deer in velvet, and hunting season gets here, and the pressure was insane and pushed them out. So I run. Here's the difference. I run trail cameras down here in Kansas. They just changed that in the last 2 years on public ground.
Yep.
And so I go run. I'll have anywhere from 5 all the way up to 12 to 15 cameras out on public ground, and I can pretty much have them marked where they'll be, what time they'll be there, and then first season will get here and it changes. Or October 1st gets here, it changes.
Yeah.
So it's been wild. And then since they let the grows legalize down here, the marijuana grows legalize, those have changed the game too, because they'll roll up in the people that own those, they'll roll up in vans and stuff and unload, and they'll just start walking it out. So you'll be a mile back there, and there'll be 4 people coming from one way and 4 people coming from another way, meet in the middle, technically doing a deer push with crossbows in the best area to bow hunt. So that kind of changed the game, but they have been getting in trouble because they've been cutting fences and driving through the pastures and all that. And so they've been getting busted for illegal activities. But yeah, it's crazy. That part is crazy. Like when that first year that happened, you're talking about some areas that I've been into, and haven't seen people. And then I actually drew back because I thought it was a group of pigs walking through this tall grass, and they came popping out at 30 yards. And yeah,
Sheesh,
so,
crazy.
but yeah, it's just definitely different terrain, especially where we go to West Kansas. It's open, small
Yeah.
trees, and creeks
What's
here. You're
what's
looking at
your
pure timber.
experience been like in Kansas? Have you seen a lot of like pressure, or I mean, have you guys have harvested deer since you've been hunting here? Or
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Me and Gunnar
Yeah.
both harvested a deer this year. Have you harvested one before this year?
No, the first year I went OU Texas week. It was hot. It was October. OU Texas always plays second weekend of October. So, I mean, I went that week before the game. So it was like October 5th through the 9th or something like that. And it was like a heat wave. And I
Oh,
saw a
yeah.
bunch of deer. I texted Taylor. I was seeing deer like crazy. That's part of the reason why I wanted to get back into that unit. And me and Taylor were like, let's go back because you
Yeah.
saw a bunch of deer. And I mean, I didn't harvest one, but I saw a bunch of deer. I had a lot of good success.
That's awesome.
But this year was a bit. I harvested a deer, but it was a bit different as far as the numbers of deer that I found. But
Yeah, so kind of my deal. If you want to talk about quality of deer, it's kind of hard to compare because down here it's like public ground is my way to use it until I get something on private going after, so I don't really bother my private spots that much. But when I was up in Kansas, it's like we're gonna drive until we find something we like, keep moving around. The pressure up there wasn't bad. We ran into a couple hunters that were like pulling in the gate, and it's like first come, first serve. So if I was there first, someone came by, they always waved and said good luck. I was trying to think. Gunnar had some bad experiences on that end. With quality of deer, I feel like I saw bigger deer on public in Kansas, but I hunted Kansas the way I hunt here. Like, you know what I mean? Like I hunted hard, put a lot of miles in. Here on the private ground or public ground here, I kind of know where I'm going to go. I haven't spent a lot of time looking it all over like I did in Kansas. So if I did that, yeah, I could probably, I could find bigger deer here. They get shot. I have found them. I've been on them, but um, but I've seen more numbers on an average hunt in Oklahoma. I've probably seen them more number wise, but quality wise been Kansas. But
Oh, nice.
I
Yeah.
back that with I have seen a lot of big deer here. I just don't put as much effort here because my tags here are free because I have a lifetime license versus being out of state and coming up to Kansas. It's a little hefty. So I'm like pretty serious when I come up there. So I did when I was up there got up there on a Monday or Tuesday and I was going to leave that next Sunday. I put right over 1,100 miles on my truck in state when I got up there. So that's like the quality of driving and going around and looking at all the spots I put up there. So, but you're also looking at wide country versus thousands of acres of oak trees down here. So it's easier to see a bigger deer 400 yards out when you can see that far versus here you might be able to see 50 yards.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So someone's going to probably hear what I'm saying, go, oh, yeah, Kansas, we better get there, have bigger deer. But they do have bigger deer, but we have big deer too. It's just you can't see them as far. You can't see out in our the way our hills run up here and stuff versus Kansas. So I think that's what a lot of people get confused about. So
I'll tell you what, the pressure I ran into was bird hunters. I would be up there glassing, and we'll just see a bird hunter come blow out the valley or the couple draw systems that I'm watching. Or we had one hunter that came up on a hill, like kind of backdoored us a little bit, and he like was sprinting to get past us. So we just were like, this isn't worth it. Whatever.
Wow.
That was a little weird, but other than that, I'll tell you what I was told that the unit we were in, they had a big wildfire come through there. At the same time, they were struggling a little bit with EHD, so the numbers were a little down. We found deer. I'm not complaining. It was a blast. But yeah, look, I agree with what Taylor was saying. So
let's take a break from this podcast and talk about some awesome products.
hey folks, let me tell you about GritKnives. They're not just your average knife company. They're all about high quality, affordable, and unique products that'll make your outdoor adventures legendary. From limited edition pocket knives to rugged fixed blades and precision scalpels, they've got it all. Plus, their logo wear will have you repping the brand wherever you go. So whether you're out in the field or tackling everyday tasks, trust GritKnives to be your go-to for top-notch gear that won't break the bank.
Are you looking for some of the best sounding turkey calls on the market? Then look no farther than JAG Calls. Since 2022, Team OD has been using their calls and have had great success doing so. Two of my personal favorite calls are the Mother Clucker and the America. And I mean, if it has a name like that, it must be good. Check out JAG Calls, that's JAG Calls, out at jagcalls.com. Hey, and while you're at checkout, use OD 2024 for a discount. Once again, OD 2024 for your discount.
Now let's get back to today's episode.
Yeah, especially in western Kansas, those bird hunters do kind of flood some of the public lands.
Yeah.
Do you guys see a good combination of whitetail and mule deer out that way?
No, I didn't see a single mule deer the whole time.
Didn't either. I went with my dad. My dad drew a rifle tag in, what was that, 16 down there, unit 16, and we couldn't find a whitetail. All we found was mule deer, and Dad would look at me and like, if I had a mule deer tag, we found a stud muley on public. Like we stared at it for a while, and my dad's like, if I was a felon.
Yeah,
I was
there's
a felon,
some big
buddy.
muleys in Kansas.
But no, me and Taylor hunted the same unit, probably the same pieces for the most part. He hunted in September, I hunted in December. And all I saw was whitetail. He saw a ton more turkey than I did. I didn't see a single turkey.
If there was a tree, there's turkeys in them. It was insane. I mean, but another thing, if you talk to anyone from Oklahoma I've talked to, they're like, get ready for the bird hunters, which they have every right to be there. But some of them I've heard stories. They'll see you where you are and they'll just drop their dogs and still walk through the stuff you're trying to hunt. And so that part's kind of crazy because I've never ran in, like I just said that about the bow hunters or the crossbow hunters down here. But I've been to places and never seen a person, even on camera. Like, I've never had someone walk by. So, but I've even had. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I get, it's public land, everyone has access to it, but there's got to be kind of a level of like etiquette to it, right?
Yeah.
Like when I drive around public, if I see a truck parked, like I just go to a next spot.
Yep.
If I start walking in and see someone, then I walk right back out.
Yep.
But there's people that just do not give a crap and will walk right through you and make all kinds of noise.
Mm-hmm.
Two types of people on public land for sure.
Oh yeah. I feel like there's more of the people you don't want than there are people like us. I'll back out. That's like my spots here, my favorite spots to hunt. I always have 3 or 4 spots. If I pull up and there's a truck in the parking lot, they could go anywhere they want from 160 degrees and thousands of acres. I'm like, I'm not even going to risk walking in and running these people's hunt. So I'll just go to a different spot. And sometimes I've pulled up and there's been someone at every parking spot that I want to get out on. So I just go to a random spot and sit. I just don't want to run the night for someone because I've been there and I'm just like, man, come on, be respectful.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you hunt walk-in stuff up in Kansas, or do you have some private pieces?
I do a little bit of public, but it's mostly private.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's your experiences with the walk-in?
I feel like, and maybe you guys have noticed it too on the public lands, but like in the last 5 years or so, I feel like the public lands have really gotten flooded.
Yep.
Like when I first started hunting, like that's pretty much what I did mostly was public land. But back then, like you could give a case of beer to a landowner and get permission to hunt almost anything in those days, when I first started. And now I feel like, I don't know what the shift is, but I feel like a lot of like white collar lawyers, doctors and stuff started getting a bow hunting the last several years. They're leasing stuff up premium price. I'm glad the landowner's making that money, but now the landowner like sees the value. And I know people that are literally leasing land that they don't want to hunt, but it's near land they do want to hunt just to keep people that far away from it. And then you
Right.
have the outfitters that come in, lease stuff up temporarily, bring a bunch of customers in, shoot a bunch of stuff, and then they hop around and do that. So the public lands, like Kansas has been a hot spot for out-of-state hunters and YouTube hunters. And you'll see the YouTube hunters come in and smoke something huge. And then
Yep.
that really gets a lot of the out-of-state hunters, kind of fired up.
Crispy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. There. Yep.
Yep, and that wasn't real too terribly far, from some spots I know, and yeah, they're getting flooded.
Yeah, our lands down here have been getting flooded for the last 2 or 3 years, like you said. Which I think, if you looked at our tags, we hadn't had a change since like the 90s in prices. So people would come down here and it was like $300. You get your $2 and 4 does for archery. So it is over the counter. And now we jacked them up a little bit more to today's prices, to even out the playing field across the board. And there's places that they said there would be 75 trucks opening morning, that this year there was only like 20, which is still a huge number.
Oh, wow.
But it definitely hurt.
Did you see what they proposed today?
No, I didn't.
What they sent up to the governor?
Oh, where you have to draw for public ground?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to come of that, but I just saw that they set it up today.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm for it and against it at the same time. I mean, it's public ground. It kind of stinks because there are people that can't afford the prices that we, same here, talking about jacking up prices. Gunner and I had, growing up, we pretty much had the run of the land around anywhere we wanted to go. Heck, Gunner's dad, before I really knew Gunner, gave us permission to go shoot turkeys if they got a turkey. Like now it's nope. No matter what you want to do, nope, pay. And but then when Gunner shot the Oklahoma State record buck around us, I mean, land went from like not that expensive and few and far between on hunters to like, if there's 5 acres, there's going to be 5 guys on it, and they're going to be hunting back to back, sitting on a hill with corn 360 around them, and they paid $80 for that, an acre for that.
That's
5
wild.
It's not really $80, but it's darn up there. And there's places that I've never seen hunters that I've driven by, and I'm like, what are you guys even hunting on that place?
Why are you there?
Yeah, like
they'll set up a tower blind. They'll go up to the fence line. So they'll go get into a pasture with like maybe one tree in it. And I'm not talking like a nice looking hilly pasture that a buck might run a doe up into. I'm talking like a 5-acre pasture grazed down to the carpet, one tree in the middle of it. Ain't nothing on that because there ain't nothing on it. And they'll set up a tower blind and they'll go put up a feeder right on a fence line next to a property with good deer hunting, like good habitat.
Yep.
And they'll just sit there and wait for them to hop the fence. And you're like, you guys are crazy.
That's funny, man. People are so funny.
Yeah,
they're doing some proposals in Kansas too. I've heard a couple things. We get, depending on the unit, you can get several doe tags. I heard they're going to limit that based on some surveys. And then they pitched, as a resident, like I can buy a tag that's either species, if I'm a bow hunter. So I'll forfeit the ability to hunt a whitetail with a rifle. But now with a bow, I can shoot either a mule deer or a whitetail buck. And I think they're pitching the idea of like making it even a draw for mule deer in Kansas for residents.
Oh, that.
So they must not be liking some of the survey stuff that's coming back.
Are you for that? Against that?
I don't know, man. I feel like Kansas and probably a lot of places, they're more reactive instead of proactive. Like they probably waited so many years to see the numbers going down, and then all of a sudden, and I'll give one example is the wild turkey population has been on like a 15-year decline.
Yep.
And they just now in Kansas, like a year or two ago, they got rid of the fall season, and then the units that were 2 bird units, they went to 1 bird unit. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think like even out-of-state hunters might have to start applying or do have to apply. And they're being very reactive. Like I know some people would have gotten mad had they done this 10 years ago. Like, oh man, I've always been able to hunt 2 turkeys and do this and that. But it's like, do you want your grandkids to hunt turkeys?
Yeah.
Because if you do, you gotta be willing to kind of give up some of that stuff.
Yeah, we had a guy on talking about studies on turkeys that he's hosted down here in Oklahoma, and that's the same thing. Like we're reactive. We've been 2 bird state since I've ever started turkey hunting, and And as soon as they change it, everyone gets mad. But our numbers, I haven't shot a bird here in 5 years. And like that's not normal. When I started turkey hunting, I got my 2 almost every year. And it's just the numbers are so bad.
Yeah.
And there's still people mad about, well, you can only shoot 1. And I'm like, what?
Yep. Do
Yeah.
either of you guys crossbow hunt, or what do you think about
Mhm.
that?
I don't crossbow hunt. My grandpa did towards the end of his life. So I may have a different take than Taylor. I don't mind people crossbow hunting necessarily. I think for me, until I can't pull back a bow, I'm not going to crossbow hunt just because I love it so much. I
Yeah.
think that the record keeping should be a little different. For sure. I don't know. I'm back and forth on. I don't hate it per se.
Yeah, I
But
think there should be some exceptions and stuff. But what I noticed, and I know a lot of Kansas hunters, up until they legalized like crossbows for archery, like the deer quality was much better in those days. And I think what happened, like, I think Kansas was trying to get more people into, quote unquote archery hunting by allowing crossbows during the archery season. What they did was the rifle hunters used that as an opportunity to extend their hunting season and pick up a crossbow. So it
Yeah.
didn't really like introduce a lot of new people to the sport. It just kind of gave more opportunities for the people that were already hunting.
Yeah, that's kind of down here. That's the same thing. Like used to, you had to be injured at a certain age. You had to have like a permit or something like that. I don't remember if it was a permit, but you had to have a reason to use one. And then they changed it. And I'm gonna back this up with saying I don't really care what people use as long as they're hunting. But my personal experience, I'm like, if you're fit to pull back a bow, let's keep it traditional and let's pull back a bow. But on the flip side, is it fair? Is it fair? I'll use my wife for example. I shoot all the time. Like I'm, I don't do the whole deal where I pull out my bow 2 weeks before season start shooting. I'm year round shooting. Is it fair for someone like her that doesn't really love archery like I do and pull out the bow when we're gonna go and go try to shoot something that we don't know what's gonna hit? Or should she be able to use a crossbow and be able to that's more easier for beginners and it just puts the deer in a more the respect for the animal I feel like is better there in that situation. And and then you can flip that on the backside on the devil's advocate on that as well. They want to archery hunt, they should practice. But I don't know. It's just a weird, touchy subject.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always for archery hunting. Like let's go to black powders for instance. Like they have to do something. Have to do something on those because they're becoming 500, 600 yard guns that are using
yeah,
rifle powder. That's a rifle. And that's kind of
yeah,
what I see as a crossbow. Like if you can't physically pull back a bow, then let's go to a crossbow. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But then that rides that line again. Like where are we going to put that line at? Because does a
Agree.
14-year-old kid need to be pulling back a 45-pound bow and shooting, or would you rather him have a better experience than shooting 4 or 5 deer before he finds one because he's trying to take 30-yard shots and penetrating 8 inches in a deer versus he can use one of these crossbows and put one down all the way out to 60. So
Right. And
it's like a fine line you got to ride, but I don't know. I'm
mm-hmm.
not. There has to be something done. That's all I got to say.
Right. And to add to that, like I'm for like all forms of like legal hunting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be said that the traditional bow guys look at us compound bow guys and
Mm-hmm.
say like, why are you complaining about the crossbow guys? If you're able, like, why aren't you shooting a longbow or recurve? So, there's different sides of the coin there. And, from your point of like, someone that hasn't been shooting a lot or is kind of just somewhat interested, it's funny for the longest time, and I know you guys can kind of relate to this, but like we're so passionate about archery and hunting that we're practicing all the time, we're keeping up to date with everything. Like it's in a way a part of our identity. And I have friends that they'll come to like one 3D shoot, they might hunt a little bit, and I just couldn't understand like why are you not shooting more? Like why are you not like why do you not this into it? And it's like it dawns on me. I've told this story before, but it's like if someone were to invite me to golf, like I'm not passionate about golfing. They're golfing all the time. So I might be the guy that shows up late. I have like clubs that are 10 years old. Like I never hit a golf ball, and I'm like not as interested in it when I get there. So it's like, okay, when that makes sense to me now. Now I know that some people in archery, like to me, golf, that's their archery to them. Like they enjoy it, but they don't have the passion in it like we do, you know?
Yeah.
So like it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and that's kind of, you know, we're from this experience because we're around the same age, some or close within. I think the age gap might be 5 to 10 years between Gunner and I. And which, how old are you?
37.
37. So yeah, so we're about 5-10 years from everyone. But it's like if you look at our prime of when we jumped in and what we have access to now versus what people did, you know, 20 years ago, there's a reason why we're jumping in and loving this because we have unreal technology right now. And that's like I just started what you said you started 2009ish. I jumped in was shooting a bow at 2006, but I didn't shoot my first deer until with a bow until 2015 maybe. And it's like that's what I think my drive is like the technology, everything that's there. Like I still couldn't even tell you what my arrow weighs. I'm hard headed on that subject. I'm like my arrow shoots, it shoots accurate, and I've never had it where it doesn't get a full pass through until I switched setups when mine broke this year. And now, yeah, I didn't get a pass. Or I got a pass through, but then it broke. I guess it went 3/4 of the way through and then broke and then fell out. But like I've never had to really think about that. But now since I bought the new lift, it's like, all right, I need to start looking into this stuff because there's a reason behind it. So just in the last 3-4 weeks, I've really started diving in that stuff and I've completely switched my setup. So I'm getting real like I'm diving deep in the rabbit hole when it comes to archery. So
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
so yeah, this year's gonna be different. We'll see what happens. I'll see. I'm gonna test some things out of what people say, and I'm gonna run 2 different setups to see what happens, and I'll see if I'll be able to talk about it. You know, let's say 2026 in January.
Nice.
So I'm excited to see that. But yeah, no, that's like my drive is. You know, we looked at. I'm a big golfer. I love to golf, but I don't go every day. I don't go if Gunner calls me and says, "Hey, you want to golf tomorrow?" Yeah, I'm in. But I have the same clubs I used in high school.
I suck at golfing.
So it's like I'm good enough to go out there and compete with anyone that wants to go, unless you're like really good or practice a lot. But I don't know. It's like the drive for archery this last year has been insane. So,
I suck at golf too. I'm like a top golf kind of golf guy, and even then I suck at that, but I have fun doing it.
Yeah. It's expensive.
It's a good day when I can lift it, when I can get it off the ground and it drive. It's a good day. That's when you know Gunner's having a good day.
Oh man, that's funny.
That's funny. So let's kind of switch subjects. When did you decide like, hey, I'm going to build bowstrings, and like kind of how did that picture unveil?
So a kind of interesting story. I lived in Southwest Kansas, and there wasn't many shops or anything like that. Actually, I'll rewind past before that. When I first got into archery, we had a group. There wasn't a whole lot of archery or bow hunting related groups on Facebook, and we had a group called Bow Hunting, and we grew it to like 20,000 people. And at that time, Facebook was awarding like the official group of Facebook, and we were like just a sliver of way from being awarded like the official bow hunter group of Facebook at that time. There was another group that had just a few more members than us, and they ended up getting it. But we also started a group, and since you guys are Matthews shooters, you might be familiar with it, but it's called Matthews Brotherhood. And I originated that group, grew it to 30,000, 35,000, something like that. I ended up selling that group, but I kind of got good at like connecting with people, networking with people, like advertising, like getting people like to join hunting community type things on Facebook. So I really kind of got in the weeds with like people tuning their own bows and like working on their own bows, seeing like the tuning posts and everything like that on Facebook. And there's not much like shops in my area. So I bought a press And it was funny because the first time I ever pressed my own bow, I shot the bow out of the press, like snapped the limbs
Oh,
off on it.
jeez.
And so it was like a slow, but you got to kind of be willing to make mistakes to be good at pretty much anything. So I knew like I was going to make mistakes, and I started getting, good at tuning bows. So I was like, all right, what's the next thing I want to learn? And it was like, all right, let me try to build my own arrows. So I started building my own arrows, and that's actually one of my least favorite things. And like all of archery tech is like building your own arrows. To me,
Yeah.
some people love it, but it's like kind of watching paint dry. And then from there, we moved to northern Kansas, and I was like, all right, so I'm getting good at the tech stuff. I build arrows, like what's the next thing? And then I kind of went down the hole of like, trad archery, and I bought like this starter Samick sage bow, and I was shooting it, and I'm like, like maybe I'll start learning how to build bows. So I did. I started like watching YouTube videos, and I was building bows out of like boards, and they were shooting. And I was like, now I want to do it like out of an actual stave. So I went to a bow making class in Arkansas, and I watched a lot of videos, and I got to a point where I could take an Osage stave and I could make it into a bow. So I bought all the equipment, and that's what I started doing. But the thing about like traditional bow making is at the time it would take me like 20, 25 hours. The bow may or may not break. And I would finally get to a point where it's like, all right, this is a good bow. But it's like 20, 25 hours. No one really knows. Like, I don't have a business. Like, no one really knows who I
Right.
am. Like, what's the value of it? Like, what I would sell it for something that would make me feel good after spending 25 hours making it and inhaling all the dust and everything. And my favorite part about like making traditional bows was when I made the Flemish twist bowstring. So I was like, man, like I'm really enjoying making the bowstring. So I kind of like sold a lot of the equipment I used to make the bows, and I kind of bought some more, and I was doing the Flemish twist stuff, and I was like thinking about compounds in the back of my head. I talked to my wife about it, and she's always been real supportive of everything archery, diving into stuff. So she's like, yeah, I think you should do it. It's a lot of like initial upfront costs. So I bought the equipment, and then again back to like be willing to risk making mistakes, which I did in the beginning. But got the equipment. I finally kind of built my own process. I did learn off of a lot of like there's not a whole lot of compound string builders like in
Yeah.
the world. It seems like there's a handful of people, and the community of guys that are doing it have been in it for a long time. Most of them are really helpful. So if I'd get to like a point where I couldn't figure something out, I'd reach out to them, and they might not give me a full answer, but they'd kind of help me go in the right direction. So that was real helpful. And then it got to a point where like I started making a real good string, and it just kind of blew up from there.
Wow. So what all equipment kind of goes? You don't have to give everything, but like what are some of your key equipment you use?
So I use so starting the beginning, there's like a layup post, and that's where you wrap your fiber around, and there's a tensioner for that. And then I have a machine that does some stretching, some twisting, some serving. And then I have another like layup jig where I take all my measurements. That one can twist also. I have some manual stretchers. And then I have what's called a Bloodline cycle bot. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but I used to use mostly manual stretchers. And now this cycle bot, instead of, like stretching a static load for like X amount of time, the cycle bot, what it does is I put the string set on it, and I hit the start button, and it like shock stretches it, and it
Mm-hmm.
holds the weight for a certain amount of time, and then it dumps it, and it like kind of lets it shrink up a little bit, and then it shock cycles it again. A lot of people think of it as like, when you put a set of strings on and you shoot it, that's kind of what you're shocking the string a little bit. So that's what it's doing. It's stretching it out to like a
Right.
max, and then and it does that cycle so many times.
Wow.
So that's a
Yeah.
real good piece of equipment.
I wouldn't even know where to, if you're like, hey, if you make a set of strings in the next week, I'll give you $1,000. Yeah, I'll be like, I don't know where to start.
I was the same way, man. I was like, I seen somebody that did it, and I was like, I would not know the first thing. Like, I'm not even slightly interested in this. And then
Yeah.
as I started learning all the art, like it was the next thing to learn. And it's funny because it's like, in my opinion, unless you're like manufacturing a bow or something, like the string making is like one of the hardest like technical things to do. that's where like a lot of the shops, some of them do have like string building equipment. They kind of do some of it, but that's where a lot of the pro shops kind of stop, right? Is like at the string
Yeah.
building process, like that they pass that on to someone else.
So, what year did you start making strings? Or like start
I've
selling them, I should say.
I started selling them. I formed the LLC around 2020.
Mhm.
And the first year, like every year since, I've doubled like the amount of strings I've sold every year. I've doubled that number. And it's
Oh,
to a
wow.
point now where even last year, I wasn't even open the full time because I have a full time job, family and hobbies of my own. And it's like the string building, I'd work my full time job six in the morning, get off of work at 4, and then I'd be string building. And when I first started, because my process was a lot slower, like sometimes midnight 1, wake up, do it all over again, like it was real stressful. So I found a way to kind of streamline the process. And we don't ship, we only ship in the US. And I know there's like people in Canada have reached out, they want me to ship there, and I'm like, oh, I'm not set up to ship over there yet, and I just don't have the resources. I know at some point I'd like to hire some builders and kind of grow, but I'm like at max capacity of what I can take in.
Wow.
I'm at the point where I love that like dealers reach out, shops reach out, they want to be a dealer for me, but I just can't, like I don't want to bite off more than I can chew. I don't want to get
Yeah.
overwhelmed. I don't want the quality to lack. And this is something I've told people. It's like, not to rag on the guys that do have a bunch of people because I plan to get there at some point. But it's like, do you really want the kid on a Friday that's 21 years old? He's having relationship problems. It's 3 o'clock. He's ready. You want that guy finishing your string? Like
Yeah.
for me, it might as well have my face on the package when it goes out, because I can't just be like, oh no, someone at Unbound made that string. Like they know
Yeah.
I made the string. So I can't really afford to, if I get almost done with the set and something's not right, like it goes in the trash, like I can't really afford to mess anything up.
Right. Wow.
And that's not to say I don't make mistakes, but I try real hard to have like a good attention to detail on the sets that I make.
Wow. That's crazy. So, um, what would you say? So, like, if someone was like, "Oh, I want a new set of strings," what's your selling point?
So we use, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's called Bloodline fiber. And it's somewhat new to the market because like BCY and Brownell have been around for so long. It's a completely waxless fiber. So wax collects like dust, grime, it
Mhm.
gets in your, if you replace a set of strings, you can kind of see the wax in like the grooves. And if you hunt and you're, spot and stock or whatever, and dust and dirt gets on the string or sticks to the wax, and it gets in your cams and your rollers, and it kind of breaks down the fibers and stuff a lot more.
Mhm.
This being completely waxless, it almost feels like an oily coating that replaces the wax. So
Mhm.
you literally never have to wax your string. And because there's no wax and gunk, like the string naturally weighs a little bit less, it's a snappier string. But that coupled with like, the building process, the cycle bot and stuff like that is kind of like the selling point. I feel like people that are used to like the wax fibers, when they try a bloodline set for the first time, it's a lot different. It's a lot different feeling. It's a lot different sounding. It kind of takes some getting used to if you do your own installs, because of that oily coating. It can be a little difficult to tie your peep in because you got to use certain materials to tie it in. You got to tie it tight. But once you get past, the newness of the material and stuff like that, I feel like people that do try that material, they end up wanting to stick with it.
Hmm. So so like the stock strings that come on Matthews, that's the older material, isn't it? Or did they switch?
No, BCY still makes like newer materials, and this is just me thinking, because Matthews went from zebra, which were known to be like a horrible set of strings, stretching, twisting. They came out with these match strings, and they made the claim that like they finally made the string that's not going to do any of that. And just as a string builder, kind of observing their strings, like I would say they fixed half of the problem. Like they're using better materials available from BCY, but
Mhm.
it appears the process they're using is the same. Like the way they're stretching, the way they're serving, the way, like the quality control, all that stayed the same. They just upgraded the materials they're using. So they
Hmm.
fixed like half of the problem, and that's
Yeah.
just my opinion.
Yeah, you're talking strings and all the material. That's way out of my league when it comes to bow hunting. But yeah, no, that's even crazy to know that there's even difference in materials, and so.
Are your strings that you build, are they compatible to just about any type of bow, compound wise, or is there anything that
Yes.
yeah, okay.
And we use like a blended material, so the material wouldn't be good. There's vectoring in it, so it wouldn't be good for like traditional bows,
Yeah,
especially like, ones with wooden limbs. Carbon limbs would be all right. But yeah, they're compatible with compound bows for sure.
awesome.
So what's your connection with the Shot 3D experience? Are you just hooked up with them for like booths, or kind of what's going on there?
So when they did, it's kind of coming back to me now. We were doing a partnership giveaway with AJ, Knights of the Apex. I don't know if you know him on Instagram.
Mhm.
We were partnered up on a string giveaway, and you had to like our pages, comment,
Yeah.
and Jeremy's sister won a set of strings. So I shipped the set of strings to her, and the next thing you know, like a month later, I had an order for like 4 strings. Jeremy and some of the guys bought strings,
Hmm.
odd vein out. And then so we got to talking, and then when they're like, "Hey, we're launching this shot. We're going to do our first one this year. Would you be interested in being a course sponsor?" I was like, "Man, I'd love to. That'd be awesome." And we went down there and like met with them, and just I mean, you guys know them. They're just such hard workers. They're great
Yeah.
people. They're passionate about archery, so we just kind of hit it off. And we've just grew close over the last few years, and we've met up at shoots, and we talk several times a week on the phone or just texting each other, and just such a good group of people. I can't say enough good things about those guys.
So have you ever shot any other courses like TAC or?
Yeah. Yep. I've been to 3. I've been to Colorado twice, and then the South Dakota one once.
What's your experiences versus the two? Like,
So, for TAC, what I like about TAC is I do like that they're in mountains, right? And
yeah.
so I like that. I like taking the ski lift stuff up. I like, in a way, since I like networking so much, I like that there's so many people at those events.
Hmm.
What I don't like is the registration process is a nightmare. And if you guys have ever registered for Attack, it's an absolute nightmare. The the knock times are awful. I think it's become so popular now that like when you shoot the course, it takes extra time because you're waiting on the group in front of you. They're waiting on the group in front of them. So it's just real kind of cluttery. I mean, I would still go, but as far as shots concerned, it's a real simple sign up process. There's no knock times. You can start whenever you want. You can shoot whenever course you want. You can make it through the courses fairly quickly, and it's more of like a family feel. Like the shot team, they do such a good job. Like when you see them out there, they talk to you like they've known you for a long time. They make you, and it seems like not only those guys, but just the community of like people that go to a shot, like the way they network with each other, the way they keep in touch. It feels like a lot more like family oriented, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. That's what I've gathered from just my short talks with them, because I've seen them online and all that. I've seen the way people talk about them, but this year is the first year we actually met them in person at the same show that I bought the lift. We had a booth, and they just came up, and started talking to us, and it was like we've known them forever. This is our conversations, and they immediately were like, "Hey, we just want to know if you guys would be interested to come shoot an event and let us know how you think about it." And I was like, "Well, absolutely." And I was like, "We also film," and it was like, "Oh, so we started building off each other on that." And then they're like, would you do a booth at our event in Tulsa? And we're like, yeah, I mean, that's a no brainer. Well, anywhere we can plug in, we always plug in. So yeah, definitely. When you just said like the family feel, when they first day they walked up and texting back and forth, I just feel like I'm texting my own family. It's just natural. So, but yeah, I'm ready to shoot that. We're, like I said, this will be released after the Kansas shoot, but before the Arkansas shoot that we'll be at, and then of course Tulsa. So I'm ready to see the two. I'm ready to go shoot the 2 different events, and be able to talk about them, and then be able to. We're actually going to do a pretty big giveaway if we can get everything put together before then for Tulsa. So
That's awesome. What time Saturday do you guys think you'll arrive?
probably 8 a.m.
Nice.
So
And I don't know if you guys heard, but we're co-hosting with Scent Thief like a social hour, and we're
yeah,
going to be doing some giveaways and stuff. So if you guys, I know you probably got, a hike back home, but it should start around 6 and maybe end at, I'd say maybe 9 at the latest. So if
yeah.
you guys do want to stick around for that.
I think it's only like 2 hours from us, so that's really not too bad. We're gonna drive up sometime tomorrow and stay. Um, I'm not really. I'm kind of between two towns, which I was gonna talk to you after the episode about where you'd stay, but stay tomorrow night and then see how Saturday goes. I'll probably stay regardless, just because I don't want to have to drive back late and
Hmm.
just leave or Sunday morning and get back for an Easter I have. But no, I plan on being at that social. So
That's awesome. Heck yeah. Do you guys like the longer distance targets at events like that, or do you like the more technical
so if you
shots?
want my honest opinion, this is my first actually major event like this to go shoot.
Nice. I
Um,
think you're gonna be hooked then for sure.
yeah, I've gone around and shot at people's like multiple people. Like Gunner has a setup in his backyard. It's like 20-ish, 30-ish targets down in the timber, and you go through to walk through and have shots. There's a guy in Stillwater that had the same thing. Those 3D targets he kind of set up, kind of modeled like tack. I've watched all the videos and all that. So I don't know. I'm ready to experience the first one. I'm ready to be
Yeah,
able to
that's
talk about
awesome.
it.
You
But
do it one time and you're gonna be completely hooked.
yeah,
And I like the long distance stuff. And I don't know if you've been following kind of their teasers they're putting out for the
yeah, I have
location, but it sounded like one of the courses, the average distance was
the
like
typo.
90. And I love it, man, because there's even on some of those, like we'll even walk back, if it's like a 60-yard target and we'll walk back a little bit and shoot it further. But I love the long distance stuff because I go to a lot of like local shots in Kansas, and
Mhm.
like any given weekend in probably Oklahoma, Kansas, anywhere, any given weekend in the state in the springtime, summer, you can go shoot a local course and it'll be like 40, 50 max, right? A lot of people in their backyard too, they can go shoot 20, 30, 40 yards.
Mhm.
So to be able to go somewhere hike and get them long bombs, out to 80, 90, 100, 120 on some of them, even if you're not, your long distance isn't your thing, it's still fun.
Yeah,
Challenge each other, and they hand out scorecards, but like me and my buddies in our group, like we never take score. Sometimes we'll shoot more than one arrow, we'll challenge each other and stuff, and it's just more of like just having a good time, and that's
yeah,
that's really what, makes me passionate about archery.
yeah. That's what when it goes to golfing. Like I just said earlier, like I'm in it. If someone calls me, let's go. And that's kind of like this archery deal. It's like the weekend with the boys, but we get to have a friendly competition. Might be a little more than friendly competition, but we'll have a competition. Have a good time. But yeah, I was looking at all their courses. My farthest distance, I've shot 100, like with my old bow a couple times, see if I can do it, and I did it. But that 120, that's going to be different for me. So I I think I can do it. We'll see. I went and bought some more bows or some more arrows today just to give away a few when I'm there. But no, I'm ready for. They were talking. Is it something wild? Of course, it's kind of like a scenic safari kind of hunt. They just released some episodes about it
Oh, the
today.
Wild Creek course?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wild Creek. I'm excited about that one. I just like say what?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys are like familiar with the Wild Creek targets or if you do much like 3D otherwise,
Mm,
but I've explained. So Shot is really they have a good partnership going with Wild Creek, and if you go to most like local clubs, like ASA shoots
mhm.
or even like the R100, they have the Reinhardt targets and they have the Delta McKenzie targets, and for the longest time, those have been like the only two available targets on the market. And I mean, they're not bad targets, but you go up and you touch one and there's like no texture to it. It's like touching a piece of cardboard, right?
Yeah.
These Wild Creek targets are so damn realistic. Like when you touch the thing, it almost feels like you're touching the hairs. So you guys
Wow.
have to pay attention to that. When you go
Yeah.
up to it, like look at the detail. There's so much detail on these targets, like it's just so different. There's so much detail that like when you're looking at a Delta McKenzie or Reinhardt target through a pair of binos, like it's easy to see where the scoring rings are because there's like no texture. But on these Wild Creeks, it can be hard because of like how realistic the
Yeah.
texture on the target looks. And the other thing is like the arrows pull so smooth out of the target. And they also sell some, and that's one of the things we're giving away is a Wild Creek mountain lion at that social
Oh,
hour.
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready for that. And then what the shots? What do they call them?
Novelty shots.
Yeah, novelty shots. I'm ready for those.
So I love the long distance one, and like every time I've been to a tack, I've did the 111-yard caribou shot and got in for
Yeah,
the truck. And on the side by side, so last year I'm just kind of rough guessing. There was like maybe 30 entries into it, and I
uh-huh.
had like 8 of the 30 entries on
Wow.
that side by side. And that shot is a buffalo at 106 yards, and
Yeah,
there's a
I've seen
circle
that.
that you have to hit the inside of.
Yeah, I'm ready to try that. Like I said,
Yeah,
this
it's a blast.
we are new. Well, I shouldn't say we. We have a couple people that are going up there with us that are not as new as like me and Gunnar are to like the distance, but we're about as new as it gets when it comes to distance. So
Target
we,
archery, man, like it's humbling because, hunting for years before I got into like even going to club shoots and stuff, like I had it in my mind that I was just a really good shot because like I didn't miss many deer and stuff like that.
yeah,
But you go and like people are watching you like shoot and you're some of the technical stuff, it like gets in your head and archery is mostly mental, but it like kind of humbles you in a way. And it just made
yeah,
me like once you got good at like the 3D stuff and like the hunting stuff, like it goes so good together. It helps you stay sharp through the year, and it does kind of make you want to expose yourself to more of like the local club shoots and stuff like that.
yeah. I'm we so what kind of hurt us is we're from small town, so you don't have much of that around where we are. You have to travel an hour and a half, 2 hours to start getting to some of those shoots.
Oh
But
wow.
since I relocated up here by Tulsa, like there's one Thursdays, there's some on Saturdays. So that's why, I was like, when my bow went down this year on me, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna buy a new one after the end of the season. I have one to get me by. And I was like, when I buy that new one, I'm setting it up the way I want to set it up. I don't care about the money part really, and I'm gonna get into it. And it's been like I'm sure my wife's tired of me going, all right, I'm going to shoot, what I mean, because it's been a huge passion, which I have along my yard. I can get out to like 120 if I go stand on the edge of the road. So I have the distance, but it's been fun. I've been doing stuff, setting up like, giving you a little shot. Um, I have like a couple trees I've been trying to shoot between, trying to get that little experience in me. So I'm not
Heck
just
yeah,
aiming at
man.
the target and launching them, but my accuracy has been a
And that's
lot.
it. Yeah. This is going to be a great experience then because you get to the 80, 90, 100-yard shots, like have a buddy kind of glass for you and then if you miss high or low, take another shot, take a couple
Yeah,
shots. That's a good way to kind of learn, the trajectory of your arrow and if you got a tape that's set up or if you
yeah,
need to dial a little bit. But yeah, man, it's such a blast.
yeah, I'm ready. I was looking the 63-yard bomb at the Beaver that has like a 4-inch gap. I was
Yeah,
like,
there's some that are arrow breakers. You miss a
yeah,
target, you're hitting a rock or you're going right into a tree. And I love those too, and those really get in your head.
yeah, yeah. I'm ready. I'm ready to experience it. I think it's gonna be fun. So that's what when they were like, you guys want to, do a video and this and that, and we're like, absolutely. Like wherever,
That's
you don't have
awesome.
to twist our arm too much to get us to do stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I'm ready to see
They
the
a
event and then ready to see their different places they have their events. So
Heck yeah. Yeah, they added a new novelty too, and this one's interesting because it's like a 3-inch sticker on a target at 200
100
yards.
yards. Yeah,
You see that one? And
yeah,
if you can hit the sticker, you'll get a bow. So it'll be kind of fun to watch people. You got a sky shoot on that one. No one's going to have a pin that goes to 200.
yeah. I was talking to my buddy today at work, and I was like, to have that pin, you'd have to have something, some set up a 3D printer and set it up under your arrow so
Hmm.
you can see. I was like, to actually have a 200-yard pin is insane. It's
Yeah,
definitely going to be
exactly.
like, oh, that's a good. It's going to be you're going to have to get lucky and have one good judgment.
Yep, that's right.
All right, Nick. Well, thank you for coming on today and talking about your strings and talking about the 3D shot experience or the shot 3D experience, excuse me, and just kind of talking bow hunting with us. So if anyone's listening and they're like, I want to set new strings, where can they find your socials or where can they order a new set of strings?
Yeah, so the website is unboundarchery.com and then Unbound Archery on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. And then do you have like a waiting period right now since you said you're pretty booked up?
So I actually stopped taking orders just to kind of prepare this week. for shot, kind of get everything packed up, and I didn't want to leave people hanging or extend the wait time, so I shut the website down. But I'll be accepting new orders again starting Monday.
Starting Monday. And then also something I want to talk about too, before we jumped off, is you can pretty much, I forget how many colors you have, but you can pretty much color or make any combination of colors that people wanted. I think that's something important to share.
Yeah, we have so there's a picture that kind of goes over the colors, and if you click add to cart, it'll prompt you through the color options, and you can pick up to 2 colors on your fiber and then any color for your serving.
So yeah, especially with today's time with the color matching, I feel like that's kind of something that you can offer that other people that aren't custom string makers can't make, or can't offer.
Yeah, it's funny the ends of the spectrum of people that they just want black or they want like the earth tones, and then you have
Yeah.
people that want the crazy like purple, yellow,
Yeah.
orange, bright stuff.
I think I saw lime green and pink on one of your posts on a
Yeah,
black
that
photo.
sounds right.
Yeah. I was like, man. So yeah, thank you for jumping on and talking over your strings, and we'll see you
Yes,
at the next shot
sounds
event.
good. Thanks for having me. It was nice to meet you.